All right. Hello, everybody. This is State of Exile Podcast Episode 7. Today with us, we have Hatman and Stacheman, Helman and Nugi, longtime racers, veterans of Path of Exile, and well known throughout the community. We also have myself, I'm Zeno. We got Terex, and then we have Hegemony. So thanks for tuning in. It means a lot to us. You guys continue support and coming by. Before we kick this off, I want to discuss each person's segment. With the great success of last time, you guys really liked it. We're going to be doing overrated and underrated again, and that will be with Hedgie and Terex. Hellman's going to be discussing the duelist side of the fence with racing and why he's always claims that throne. Nugi's going to be discussing what makes a build effective, what makes a build good, and lastly, I'm going to be discussing unique ways to make unique interpretations of gems. May not be the most effective, but cool different ways that you can use gems. All right, so I got a couple thank yous. As always, I want to thank Grinding Gear Games for supporting this podcast and backing us time and time again, giving us microtransactions and watching it and taking, just listening to it. It means a lot to us. Thank you, Twitch. Again, guys got us on the front page. It means a lot that you're supporting Path of Exile. Thank you. I appreciate your support. I want to thank Paranites for making this overlay. She's done a lot of good work with that. And, of course, I want to thank all the viewers and mods out there that continue to do what they do best. Support Path of Exile. It means a lot to us. All right, so without further ado, I want to kick off our first segment. It's going to... Actually, I'll take that back. Why don't we do some introductions? Let's do some introductions. I almost dropped the ball there. So a little bit about me. I'm Zeno. I'm well known for just being goofy. I'm just a fun guy on stream. I'm not the best player out there, but I try to make unique interpretations on specs, and that's specifically what I'm talking about today. How about you, Terex?
Terry here. I'm known for being a dedicated and passionate racer, and I just love to help out as much as possible in anything to do with Path of Exile and to do with racing.
And how about you, Hedgie?
What's up, guys? I'm mainly known for doing a lot of crafting sessions, playing in hardcore and all the leagues combined, and I do a lot of helpful stuff, guides and interpretations. Also, I'm a very avid PoE fan and gamer.
And Hellman, let's hear your intro.
From the beginning, I've just been a big fan of the game. Definitely really into racing, more passionate and more into the game than Terex. I also really enjoy beginning of race leagues and races and stuff, doing like the 24-hour no-lifing to start them off. It's really fun to me, and I just love this game.
And of course, we have Nugi here.
Yeah, Nugi here. Played games since the beginning, like a lot of you other guys. I don't know, theory crafter, racer. I really love the week races where you can like put everything into place. That's really what I'm about in this game. Just exploring all venues and using all the things in one. So yeah.
All right. Before we start with our first segment, which is Hellman and Everything Duelist, I want to remind the chat that at the end of this, we have a live question and answer session with you guys. You guys get to ask your streamer, your PoE personality, any question you want, and we'll answer them for you the best we can. Just try to put at Hellman, at all, at Hedgie, things like that. And we'll gladly answer them at the end. Obviously, with time constraints, we're going to choose the best of the best, and we'll sift through them. So please put your questions in chat. All right, without further ado, let's do this. Hellman, Everything Duelist. What in specific?
All right, well, I'm going to start off the segment talking about just racing in general and before I get in the nitty-gritty of the duelist. So for anyone interested in racing, whether you want to be super competitive or just get some points to get a couple of the really cool items coming out in Season 8, there's some decisions you have to make. If you want to be competitive, the first thing you really have to decide is you want to be competitive. Doesn't sound like much, but that's the backbone of it. And then in order to become competitive, you have to surround yourself with the right information to do this. And that's whether just doing a lot of practicing, watching streams, reading guides and stuff like that. There's plenty of good literature, plenty of good streams to look out for. A lot of things that can help you become a better racer. On the other side of it, instead of just solo racing, is party racing. Party racing is surrounding yourself with not necessarily other good players, but other players that want to become better at the game. Season 1, I was an awful racer. At the very end of Season 1, I had the second most amount of races done and the lowest points per race out of like the top 50 people. That's how bad I was, and that's just
How many
it
points
takes
did you
time to get
achieve?
better. I was barely out of the top 20. I got the
Your video,
the
everybody.
just. I was barely out of the top 20. I got enough to get the alternative art at Series Mirror, but didn't end up top 20. And that's only because I did pretty much every race because I didn't have a job at that point. So it just takes a lot to get better. Forming a racing team, which a lot of people complain, there's not enough good races and stuff like that. It's all about finding people who want to do it. I found one of my friends from another game, and Noobler, if anyone remembers him. Us three started doing racing. Found 3 other people that really wanted to get into racing. We started off in a 3-hour race hitting 33, where the top teams were hitting 39. About 2 weeks later, we were hitting 39, when the other teams were hitting 39 and a half, 40. We were right behind them, and just getting better as it goes. And it's just figuring out your roles, knowing what you want to do, and deciding this is how you want to do it. I guess, Nugi, what do you think is the most? I know you've had a lot of success in party racing. What do you think is the biggest factor to having an effective racing team?
The biggest factor, I would say, is knowing your role. Like having specific roles and being very good at them, I would say. I ended up, when I was doing the racing team, I ended up running most of the things because nobody had the guts to really commit to a role. So I think that was really like when they started committing and when they started running what they were supposed to, that was really when we kicked into gear.
Do you think,
Definitely understand that.
for you, like Helman, I always see you're the first guy to enter areas usually. I mean, let's be honest, Leap Slam's kind of imba. But when I always see your name come first, having people in your party take the back seat just to go, do the side quest while you get the experience, is that something, does that hurt some party members? Do they get actually pretty upset about that?
Most of the time, no, because most people are like, maybe the first few races, everyone's like, yeah, I want to see my name in lights. I want to be number one. But people realize that you're working as a team to get ahead. Yeah, I'll be the first one for a few zones. I'll be the first level for a few zones. And then me being the first in those areas will allow the other members to get a higher level. And so it's sacrificing myself early and getting the early recognition. They'll get other people ahead, and they'll beat the record from the previous time. And yeah. So yeah, it's so if you want to be a competitive team racer, just surround yourself with people who, like Nugi said, want to do their roles, want to get better, and yeah. So now I'm gonna get into talking about duelists. So we have the new race season coming up. I think it starts 1 week from today, June 7th. So 1 week from yesterday. Really excited. So for anyone interested in getting into racing, I'm gonna quickly talk about racing, then get into the duelist side of it. So the things that can affect a run, the first thing is early RNG. There's a lot of things that go into here. First is movement speed boots. Whether you get these off the vendor, you can purchase them at level 1 from Targleague. He sells boots. You can check them. They cost 2 wisdom scrolls. You can find rare or blue boots off the beach, both off hillock or from chests or anything else. And with movement speed boots. Movement speed boots save you so much time, 10% moving faster the entire race. Big factor. Other things are weapons in general, and like two-handed weapons, GG weapons, rares with attack speed, damage on them, or +1 gems for caster classes. And finding those off hillock or off the vendor are really good as well. Personally, as a duelist, when I kill hillock, the only 2 things I'll worry about IDing are a rare weapon / blue weapon and boots. Those are the 2 things that can really affect your race. Especially with the introduction of Molten Strike, it allows a lot more variety, whereas with Cleave you can only use two-handed swords and axes. Now with Molten Strike you can use gnarled branches, you can use driftwood mauls, and still be able to clear AoE. So finding really good stuff like that, for me, affects races. Also Quicksilvers.
Hey,
So,
Helm, I got a question for you. So
Yes,
transmutes, I've always wondered, like, a person in your position, if you don't have a good weapon or boots, do you prefer to use it on the weapon than the boots, or sometimes you really want to roll the dice for the move speed on the boots? Like a transmute.
Depends on the only time I'd actually use it on boots going for MS would be like an endless ledge race, unless you have like a plethora of transmutes at this point. Weapons, you're almost always exclusively going to be crafting using the recipe, which in case anyone's interested, it is a belt, a rustic sash, either white, blue, or rare, plus 1 whetstone, plus whatever item you want to craft it with.
So you save the
And,
transmute for the rustic sash.
Yes,
Got
and
it.
using a blue one gives you a level 8 required item with between 50 and 69 IPD.
It's good.
Yeah, it's definitely stuff you have to consider throughout the whole race. So I guess Nugi and Terex, for early games, I know Nugi, or I guess both of you play Ranger a lot. What are some early game items or early game things that can greatly affect how you do in a race?
Good, Terry. Good.
I would say movement speed boots, quicksilver, and then weapon. Because in a race, like if you go damage early on, double iron ring, DPS passives, you generally are going to be killing things in like 1 to 2 shots. So the case is it's moving quicker. It's getting to where you need to go faster, not necessarily like I need less attacks to kill. A good weapon will always like increase your clear speed. But early on, you just want to get those quests done as fast as you can. Like when you hit a dead end, you want to be able to like get to the right way faster than normal. Like movement speed boots and quicksilver, they have so much impact early game.
How about you, Nugi?
I think one thing that's severely underrated, like we all know these, like the boots and the weapons and all that. I think if you are transmuting belts, like the 24 rustic sashes, you always do like 1 or 2 because you need them anyways for the recipe. If you get like 20 reduced flask charges, I think that's one of the most potent, like underrated things you can get early on.
Just so you could keep spamming your quicksilver or
Yeah,
Exactly.
your life and mana
yeah.
flasks. That's
And
really
if you
cool.
then get like a second quicksilver and you have that, it's pretty much having 3 quicksilvers.
You can even get it from the vendor for a couple of wisdoms.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I
Great
didn't know
point.
that. Knowledge bomb.
For transmutes.
So then a couple other things that affect your racing is the layouts for maps. You can learn layouts. The only thing that with the introduction of the new patch, you have the corrupted zones. Corrupted zones add a huge new RNG fest to your zones if it's not a fixed seed race. So just stuff you have to deal with. Getting the perfect zones can help improve your time a lot, just knowing where you're going. And then the biggest RNG, no matter what they do about the race, is going to be your density, your pack size, and your blue packs. Getting to docks 10 minutes early in a race, but having the worst RNG, having no blue packs, bad pack size, you just can't set a record. You'll lose to someone with better RNG, and that's just the end all be all of racing. So now I'm gonna just to like go over duelist for you guys. It's what I've gotten accustomed to liking. If you've ever watched my stream, you literally race not a lot of time, but a good amount of time, you'll see my name right up there at the top, always on duelist. It's what I enjoy playing. It's my favorite class. So season 1, like I said earlier, I was really bad. I decided on duelist because I was watching ASDF Man from anyone who played back in the day. He was streaming, he was lead slamming. It looked like so much fun to me, so I started doing it. With a lot of practice, a lot of watching his stream, I got better and better until finally I could consider myself among the top racers. So yeah, a lot of practice goes involved with getting better, at least in my opinion, from where I came from. So when racing, we already talked about the early game, so I'm going to go over some like levels and times you want to get to certain places, at least as a duelist, and probably pretty comparable to whatever classes you want to play. So like I said, with the introduction to Molten Strike, it gives you a lot more of a variety of weapons you can choose from because you don't only have cleave. I really like Molten Strike because it's decent AoE if you have a really good like two-handed maul or acknowledged branch or anything like that, and it's amazing single target compared to double strike because it's a little less damage on impact, but if all 3 of the projectiles hit a rare, you can just one-shot it, and it's like the best thing ever. It's a huge boost to racing. So picking up your Molten Strike, you're picking up your cleave, you're going at it. You're not really going to craft anything, or you only start with 3 scrolls, so there's not much you can buy besides an iron ring. So you buy your iron ring, you start going. You get to mud flats, clear mud flats. I really like being level 3 before I get to lower submerge. I know other classes, like Witch or other things, like going back and getting Ice Snow if they're not muling it, or they go and get their Quicksilver from Hellrake, get those skill gems. As a duelist, that's not something you need. There's no good gems you get from it, and the Quicksilver you only use until level 10, which I'll get to later. So whoa. I rushed to lower submerge, cleared. I really like being level 3, like I said. I can normally get there around 4:15-ish, 4 to 4.5 minutes. Rush through lower submerge, rush through upper submerge. Like I said, when you know the layouts, you can kill the mobs as quickly as you can and get through. Never hitting flooded depths, only hitting the waypoint if it's on the way. And yeah, only killing like the unique mob. I forget her name in upper submerge. Only killing her if you have a really good weapon, you know you can kill her really quick. It's all about time investment, time spent, stuff like that.
I have a
Like
question
getting
for you.
ledge. Yes, sir.
How do you feel about the gem selection at early duelist? Do you feel like it's stronger than others, or we know the duelist start is very very potent, especially at, like the first like 15 or so levels. But how do you feel like its strengths and its choices of supports and skills?
I used with the buff to cleave. I haven't tried it yet, but cleave was amazing. Was by far the best racing skill. Then they did hit it with the nerf stick, made it a lot worse, and it just took the backseat to pretty much everything else. The only reason you were able to keep up is because you weren't doing hail rake. You were just rushing through zones. You hope you got a good weapon. With Molten Strike though, and I guess the new buff to cleave, I think duels will be a lot more competitive early, which will lead to being a lot better late. Like I always said, I always want to have ground slam. Currently, there's only one other melee class that competes in racing, and that's Marauder. Templar gets ground slam, but if you want to be competitive, you can't use it. Ranger and Scion use Spectral Throw. I wouldn't consider that melee since it's a projectile attack. So ground slam is infinitely better than cleave in my opinion, or at least pre-nerf cleave. And I wish I had gotten that. Molten Strike definitely helped out. But I think if every class had access to all gyms at the beginning, I think that'd provide for better variety of racing.
Yeah, the fact
I got a question.
Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah.
What was the initial appeal? Like, what made you want to pick duelist and stick with duelist and learn it, like invest into duelist?
I didn't want to be a caster. I knew that from the start. I watched Nugi stream a few times and saw Poison Arrow Fire Trap. I'm like, this is amazing. So I tried it out like 4 or 5 times.
I know what it is.
It did not go
Helman.
well at all.
It's the ballerina spin. Can we just like admit it already?
Okay.
The sword ballerina spin.
That's definitely an appeal. Everyone's like, oh my god, how are you doing that? I'm like, it's just natural. That's what it does.
What duelist does, man.
But,
Is it the fastest way to leap slam? This duelist?
Oh, for sure. You get the most attack speed out of any tree. So it's the fastest leap slam class there is, out of the 3, I guess.
Well, you get 6 and 4 on the right side, and then you get 4 and 4 on the left side.
You only have the 6 because of the 4. It's inefficient.
Oh, okay.
And then you have acceleration. You get the attack speed you get the 2 attack speeds on the left side. Then once you get the sword nodes, you get a lot more attack speed. It's just so much attack speed built into the tree.
Yeah, Wicked Blade and what is the other blade? I don't remember. Blade Master.
Blade Master. Yeah.
10% each of those wheels.
I guess Duelist appealed to me in the same way Spectral Throw appealed to you. I guess Leap Slam appealed to me like Spectral Throw appealed to you. And Duelist was the better Leap Slam class. So I guess jumping back into it. So we're at ledge. It's about 6.5 minutes in. 6 minutes if you're on a good or decent pace. Under 6 is always good. I really like being level 4. Just guarantees you can be at least 6.5 at the end, because no matter how fast you're going, you really want to be leveling the entire time. Duelist, there's definitely level points you want to be. The level point I'm aiming for is being at least level 9 for Brutus. Level 9 gives you the acceleration node, which is attack speed and dex, lets you put on a strapped leather, lets you level up your double strike gem, and just gives you all the attack speed to do more damage. Also lets you put on a jade chopper. So that's definitely a level I aim for before Brutus. If you can get 10, yeah, you can start Leap Slam right after. But level 9 is where you want to be at. And a Brutus kill anywhere between 13 and 15 minutes is always good, depending on your level. A lot of the times you will hear about racing. It's all depending on what level you are at the stage. You can be a little slow, but a little over-leveled, or fast, but under-leveled. Just back and forth. So one thing about up to Brutus. So you're at Brutus at this point. One thing you really need to have taken account for is the recipe, which I talked about earlier, which requires a rustic sash, preferably blue, and a whetstone. If you don't get those drops specifically, you have to try and get them. A blue rustic sash you can buy from the vendor for 1 transmute. If you have a transmute but don't have a rustic sash, you can buy a white rustic sash for 2 wisdom scrolls. And then a whetstone. A whetstone, you can only have a drop or you can craft one. By crafting one in Act 1, the only way you can do it is by having either one 20 quality white item or a bunch of white weapons that add up to 40% quality. And that's something you're always looking for throughout the race. That greatly affects your times, whether you get the whetstone drops, whether you get the items to make whetstones. And so, yeah, you definitely have to be looking for stuff like that. It helps eliminate a lot of the RNG of racing. So you have your weapon, you make either a J chopper or a tribal maul. They're pretty comparable. You start going. Second, you want to hit 10 as soon as possible after you kill Brutus and start leaping.
I think Helman just disconnected. All right, so hopefully Helman,
go.
you back? You good?
He's moving in
Yeah.
a slideshow.
Yeah, no audio. All right, so we're going to skip to our next segment, and we're going to discuss the what makes a build good. Right now we got Nugi coming up. So, Nugi, in specific, what makes your builds that you've made in the past good or efficient?
What made my builds good in the past, good and efficient? Well, I can go over that. If you want me to start off with that.
Sure, kick it off.
I think if we were talking about the past, what made my builds efficient, it's pretty much that was mostly support gems. Like in the past, nobody really had much knowledge about the game. You back?
Continue. Go ahead and
Okay,
continue.
sorry.
Okay, so like in the past, a lot of people didn't really know what specifically was a good build. I also think that's why when you compare a lot of the builds back then to now, well, there's just a lot of things that's changed. I do think I think I'm gonna start with what I have planned here. So first off, it depends on. First, we have to define what kind of build are you trying to make? Are you going for a 1 week, or like are you going for an end game build? I think that's important to know. If you're going for like a race, doing right now the aura builds, one of the reasons why they're so good is that these kind of builds do not require any kind of gear, pretty much. So for like 1 week builds, having oh my god. I feel really crabby today. I don't know why. I think I'm getting sick.
All right, so like in specific with aura nodes, is it because there's so many, or it's free damage in there, and there's so many aura effectiveness nodes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
pretty
that
much.
makes them
Okay,
strong.
so with the auras, basically auras function like spells. Oh my god! I'm sorry. I need to I need to go to the bathroom. Be right back.
Okay, guys.
No problem.
That's fine.
We'll just go back to Helman's segment. and
Okay,
let him
so
finish.
all right, Helman, you guys are killing me today.
I don't know. My internet just went out for 20 seconds. I'm sorry.
All right, so what do you got for us today, Helman? What else you got
All
about
right.
duelist racing?
So, I guess at this point, we're killing Merval. The best time you can kill Merval is probably 22.5 minutes. That's like amazing pace. Anytime after that, it's just how it goes. I normally aim for a level 13 Merval at the 24-minute mark, which is what I go for, my personal thing. And then you just go from there. I'm gonna skip a lot of the individual times because I know we're short on time. So
That's fine.
next little points I aim for is I try and get level 17 in rounds before I exit Sins 1. It doesn't always happen, but it definitely is a perk. If you can be 18 for Fidelitas, it's definitely what you want to do, because you want to be crafting a poleaxe at this point. Same thing as a J Chopper or a Tribal Maul.
Wait, who's
if you
Fidelitas?
Fidelitas, it's the boss of Sensor.
Fidelitis.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I
You
pronounced it
weren't
differently.
using your Cephals when you said that?
Whatever. So, Fidelitas. At level 18, around that point, using a poleaxe. Boss is a big killer of a lot of people, especially a lot of melee. Hits really hard, does a lot of lightning, a lot of physical damage. For this boss, you want to have a lot of armor on, a lot of lightning resist, and decent life. If not, you can easily get two-shot by this boss. Definitely a big killer in a lot of races, no matter how well you're doing. Going from there, you one of the cool tricks I don't know if a lot of people know about is going to Weaver. What you do is you run. If you find Weaver's chamber, you leave a TP out. Go to Western, grab the waypoint, go back to town, and you can take your TP back to Weaver, kill Weaver. There's no good Weaver reward, but from Fidelitas, or Fidelitas. I don't know how to pronounce
Fidelitis?
it.
There you go.
Just trying to mess you out. It's all right, man. You're doing good.
You're gonna be grabbing your Hatred Gem. It gives you a lot of extra damage for the rest of the race. At this point, I'm always running 3 mana potions, 2 health potions, leaping everywhere, using it to travel, using it to kill stuff. You should be one-shotting mobs, never running out of mana, and just moving and booking it. So much fun. After you kill both of the things, what the choice every racer has to make is whether you want to do bandits now or you want to do bandits once you get to wetlands. Personally, if I have a poleaxe made, I do it right then. I don't know, Terry, what's your stance on that?
On like when you do it,
Yeah, if you kill bandits before you go to Vol Ruins or after?
I like to do it before, and like I've on season 7 or season 6, I would be the first in the caverns a lot, and like I would be maybe 1 to 2 levels behind. But as soon as I got to caverns, like that's when I would catch up. So I guess I would fall behind a bit for the bandits. That's because like I would go and kill Alira, Creighton, and then go help Oak. But so I just like to get it out of the way, and like it does make sense to level up and progress a bit, get a bit stronger, and you can go back and do the bandits like a bit more safely or a bit maybe faster. But you definitely have to be comfortable when you choose to go and fight them.
Yeah, I know for a lot of melee classes or spectral throw classes, it's the same thing. It doesn't really matter because you're using the same weapon. Whereas I know casters like to do it later because it gives your gems a chance to level up, so you do a lot more damage.
All right. Do you have anything else to talk about?
That's about it. The only other thing is crafting an etched great sword when you hit 22, and before you get to Vol. Other than that, if you have any questions about it, feel free to ask. We'll get them written down, and I'll answer them at the Q&A section.
Sweet. So, Nugi, you feeling good? Feeling better?
I'm feeling better.
If you want, I could go next. No big deal, man.
I think we just like if you could like just throw things at me at the same time as I go, it would probably help out.
All right. So, what
Sure,
makes
no
a
problem.
good build and effective? For at least from my experiences, usually it's where you put your points and when you put them in, and is the point efficient or not? I think that's everything. You know, does it mesh well with your build? Like you were saying,
Exactly.
like auras, they're freaking amazing because there's so many aura nodes. It's free damage. If you can't craft that amazing weapon, you have your auras to carry you. I think that's where you were headed.
Yeah. Like, okay, so where I was headed was basically like auras function a lot like they function a lot like spells. So so whenever you go, you end up with like, let's say you get the anger and wrath going, you get all the aura nodes. These will level up, so you don't have to get the level required, or you don't have to upgrade your weapon all the time. All you really need is a fast weapon. So this will carry you all the way through because it keeps leveling up.
That's actually a really good point.
That, alongside with some of the new skills that are coming up, Molten Strike and Spectral Throw, these function with pretty much every weapon in the game, which is also one of the reasons why it's so good. Like, it's easy to get some attack speed, some health, and when you don't have to focus on actually upping your weapon at the same time getting all the stats and where you need to go in the talent tree, this is the best way I think right now to level up. A lot of people talk about like we've had the whole wave of what's it called? Searing Bond.
Oh yeah.
Searing Bond.
Yeah. And like Searing Bond is good. Searing Bond is good in the way that it only requires like 1 gem, 1 or 2 gems. And for anything in terms of like making a good build for the journey from the start to end game, and end game is pretty much maps. Like let's specify it like that. It works really well. As a build overall, I wouldn't say it's very good because there's no scaling there. So in order to have a good build, like a good rounded build, you also need to be able to scale all the skills and uh, like that.
It
So you
seems
pretty
like.
much,
Go ahead, Hedgie.
I mean, it seems like you're talking about like you eliminate the RNG of finding items with making
Yeah.
stuff happen through the talent tree or gems that have implicitly good damage or reliable damage to where, it'll level with you instead of, hey, I need to replace this weapon. I'm constantly having to replace weapons, and if I get
Hmm.
unlucky, it's gonna ruin my progress or the feel of my character.
Yeah.
I mean, like you were saying yesterday, you need about 300 IPD to be like set, and you need to,
Yeah.
obviously you
Yeah.
need your physical and your attack speed. But with elemental, it's like you don't even have to think about that. You can just level elemental and call it a day with your aura nodes.
Yeah, your auras
Exactly.
are
Exactly.
essentially your weapons.
There are
They
there
go
are
up.
your weapons.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Aura nodes and
I
like
think like
auras in general. Oops. Just
no,
auras
keep
in
going.
general, I think they're definitely like I'm even guilty for it. Like overlooking aura nodes and the power of them. Like the stats that you get from those aura nodes and being able to use like 3, 4 auras, you're not going to get that anywhere else really.
Also, like with the aura nodes right now, and when you get all of them, it pretty much solves all your problems, because you also get purity of fire and lightning, so that solves all your resist problems and resist like versus reflect in the same way.
Yeah, because
Um, mhm.
I always have a theory whenever I theory craft builds on people, and, when they ask me to review their build, I have a saying: if you're near influence, you get influence. It's just too strong not to get. All your mana problems are solved right there. Resist, damage. I mean, it's just so strong. People forget how strong 26% increased effectiveness on your auras really is. That whole wheel.
It is really strong when you are going like aura. Um, a lot of a thing I think people have started to forget in making really good builds is going back to basics. I think just pure life, everyone talks about, oh, we need to get this and this much block. We need to get these uniques. We need to have this and this set up for the build to be strong. Like, oh, we need to go 10, like, I don't, not to like step on your toes, okay, we need to get 10 frenzy charges. It's like going over the
Mm.
board in one thing, make like, and then we need to use blood dance and get this amount of regen, where you can simplify. And by simplifying, you could get just all the life nodes on the tree that match up with like the direction where you're going through sword nodes, then to life nodes, then to more sword nodes, then to more life nodes. Like simplifying going back is in itself so super strong. Like a lot of people start forgetting that. Um, where I did the build, the Molten Strike build in the 2 week, and I've rarely had a build that just self found was just strong all the way through. I never struggled through only self found gear. Um, and now with the recipe as well, like when you can take this many weapon nodes, like sword nodes, plus the fact that you have the recipe, it's one of the like it's just very strong now compared to it was before because you're not struggling finding that weapon anymore.
So Nugi, you talk about
Yeah.
the recipe for the weapons, especially for self-found.
Mhm.
Do you think there should be a recipe for like gear in order to like get a specific kind of resist on it, or getting a high life roll or anything like that, in order to promote those type of, I guess people want to go self-found or
I
leveling?
I actually really like the resist idea that you can force a resist on a piece of gear.
Well, there's already a recipe right now. If you take a weapon and augment, and then let's say Ruby Flask, you roll fire
Hmm.
damage, and then you could keep
Exactly.
throwing that same recipe to increase the fire damage tier roll. Maybe
Hmm.
you could do
Yeah,
something along like that for resist on gear.
I
Augment.
I think that would be very good. Yeah.
That would be, if you're missing that one resist in a self found, that would
Yeah,
actually be really
I
good.
find I found myself struggling through a lot of the time, like through a lot of the race, like just specifying what resist I needed. And the thing is, these kind of things will never be OP because with that recipe, it's not hitting the last, it's never hitting the last tier.
Hmm.
And so if you don't hit the last tier, nobody's really gonna craft on that anyways. Like at least not, at least it's not gonna be OP.
I want to
So
disagree with
we're
you, if you don't mind,
so
Nugi. Okay, so you totally stomped on my 10 frenzy build, and that's cool. That's cool. I
No,
I
that's nothing.
totally
Like
accept it. I agree. Like in the very beginning, the first month and a half, 2 months of the league, it's very important to keep it simple because the gear's not available to you. The uniqueness isn't there.
Exactly.
But once you have the gear and the money, that's when I like to do unique builds. Like just go overboard with them because you're allowed to. And I completely agree. Like the 2-week race, you can't go too ham on it. You know, you got to simplify it because there is no gear options. There's no craziness that you can run away with.
You can to an extent, though. It all depends. You have to be very aware in terms of what are your options. I think that's very important. You can look at a guy in a guide and say, oh, he does this, and I'm gonna mimic that. But in a limited amount of time, sometimes you can't mimic that unless, like, look at Pulp. Like he got 98, and when you get 98, you have the full set of nodes available in your tree, pretty much. Like you can do whatever you want if you know that you're gonna reach that kind of level. And so if you know that you're going to reach that kind of level, then all of a sudden a lot of things open up for you. So it's you have to also like think, okay, how much can I trade? How good am I with trading? If I'm very good with trading, then it is actually possible to do more than you would initially think.
So your resources are a big factor, like your time given, like maybe how much orbs you have to play with, or your gear that you're going to have access to.
Yeah, I think that's important too. If you want to make a good build, like knowing that how much you can actually put together.
Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about a lot of offense here. I know you have a lot of, wombo combos with resource and defenses. Like part of being a good build is, being good offensively and, effective defensively. What do you have in store for us today?
Well, on that note, it's like you have to take the entire package. You have to look, okay, what will be my challenges, and what will be strengths and weaknesses. So let's say you're a melee character. If you're a melee character, you will have to know that physical damage is gonna hurt you, and it's gonna hurt you a lot. So if you let's say you make a physical character, like, is it good making it without armor? Probably not. I remember a lot of people trying to do like CI physical, and if you just do CI physical, I remember Crypt's build back in the day with Sweep, where he would just jump in and then swirl around with only a granite, and you would see his life dipping to next to nothing. People thought it was good because like, okay, he can jump in and like all these sorts of things, but eventually I think he died with it anyways. But back then you didn't have as much knowledge.
Let's say you're running like Grace, for example, though, in a physical CI build, and you have all those hybrid. Yeah. I mean, they already have the normal amount of ES that you would get from any part of the tree. Do you still think like an evasion CI build would be viable, though?
An evasion CI build would be viable.
Very expensive.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I think right now it's very expensive because you have to broaden yourself too far on the tree to make a build like that viable. Also, like if you want to make let's talk about like layers. So if you wanna make a build really, really strong, so to start with, you keep it simple. But after keeping it simple, you add to it. You add the layers. So most like a build like just a pure life build, often you find yourself in the position where on the tree right next to where you're already going, well, there's like 1 million block nodes. Mm-hmm. So you can start adding to that, and you could have a layer of block on top of that. Then you can have different item setups, and you can have a lot of people like running Cephals. But Cephals is only good in like situations. Identifying situations is also something that is very important if you want to have a strong build. Like when is it actually viable to use my Cephals frame? It might not be when you're just casually farming, because then, well, all the attacks are gonna hit you.
What would you say when you talk about layers? What would you say is like one of the like biggest staple layer after layer? It just gets ridiculous. I mean, but what build would you say in specific benefits the most from your layers?
I think the most layer heavy build I've done or that you could do would be you to go Arctic armor, you go spell block, you go like a fire based build. You come to the point where no matter how much minus max, how much reflect, you're never gonna hit yourself with enough anyways. Um, like a lot of people when they look at builds, like builds will work sometimes, I don't know, 80% of the time, and then they will just get completely wrecked in like the wrong scenario because they don't have this layer of defense against the worst case scenario. I think working in worst case scenarios is one of the most important things when making a build. If you want it to last, at least. I remember when I made the incinerator, the key part why everyone told me you cannot make incinerate is because they just introduced lightning thorns. So what can you do against lightning thorns? Well, there's a few things. You don't, for example, everyone was saying like, you need so and so much cast speed. It's really good. It scales it really well, but it also kills you really fast. So maybe you don't want to focus on that too much. So instead, like you can go instead of GMP, you can go LMP. You can get more max lightning res. So you would always run like a topaz flask. That's very important for a build. A lot of people don't understand that the flask setup is equally important to the build sometimes as everything else, like any given item slot. You would have 75 spell block, and then like the paw, the ghost, or what's it
Sybil's
called?
Paw.
Sybil's paw.
Yep.
The Sybil's paw, yeah, has life gain on hit, so it's instant. Especially now with life leech being as it is, works terribly with
Incinerate.
with incinerate.
Most spells.
So
Yeah, most spells.
most spells, yeah. Because spells and like also like how do we scale spells? We scale them by I don't know, like we scale with like GMP and all these. Like we split them up so we don't one shot ourselves.
Or
And that
even
makes
like
it-
discharge. Like discharge with life leech was so good with Valpak.
Yeah.
I mean, now you have to have Valpak because with discharge you hit all these mobs, but you're only getting the hardest hit on one mob with that life leech. It's not all
yeah,
of them
it's true.
added together.
Yeah.
But let's be real. I mean, when's the last time we've seen a discharger? It's been a long time.
And I think that's mostly because
Yeah.
of the life leech nerf. Really.
Yeah, it's too hard, and the placement of
Yeah.
Valpak.
Yeah.
It still works like the burning discharger. It's not as good, but it definitely still works. I know I leveled one up and it was still fun. I definitely didn't die because of Ellie Reflector Nades, stuff like that. I died to something else, but it's definitely still viable, just not nearly as good. And I still think the like a cast on stun, cast on damage taken, like no mess with dischargers that people made a lot back when cast on damage taken first came out, cast on stun first came out. Definitely think those are still viable. Just maybe not hardcore viable, definitely still viable.
So with your layers, my favorite layer, Nugi, is the evasion layer. Just because it's evasion,
Yeah.
dodge, block, spell, dodge. It just doesn't stop. It's like I think it's one of the strongest. And then life on hit because that side of the tree is just loaded with attack speed.
Exactly. So on the side of the tree, that's very important to understand as well, because on the side of, like when you're talking about on the side of the tree, we're talking about on the side where you have a lot of crits, you have a lot of bow, you have a lot of one hand, where, like it's block, it's very weapon specific, bow or weapon, like it's very weapon specific. It's not very spell specific. So when you try and like let's say you want to make a new build, like you want to make a cool build, it has to be a Avatar of Fire, block, evasion, dodge. Like it's not gonna work. A lot of people, like on paper, it could work. Like you will have so and so much dodge chance, you will have so and so much spell block, and you have like the Avatar of Fire, so using this, and then you use 3 dragons, and all of a sudden you end up using like 3 different uniques that are gonna have no life on it. You're gonna stretch yourself so far so you can't pick up enough life nodes, so you're gonna have no life. Yes, you're gonna have the block. You're gonna have the spell dodge and all that. You're not gonna have very many damage nodes either, and so it kind of falls apart at that stage.
Yep.
So like understanding where you are on the tree and building off the tree, I think it's important to making builds really good as well.
I would say like in Nemesis and Domination, the reason why that we saw so many like all over the map builds was because of the Scion. The Scion gave you so like the introduction to go everywhere. Before, when the Scion didn't exist, that middle area was a no-no area, and it was Valpak, and that was it. Some block nodes, some lead nodes.
It wasn't a no-no area in terms of like it was just pure life, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or was it?
It was just everything was in the
nerfed as
middle,
well?
but it didn't branch out like the way Scion does. It's fewer points, and I don't know. I completely agree. Like me, I always try to make like I made like an Evasion Glacial Hammer build, and it was only good because of the Coaling Strike Glacial Hammer has at 33%, and then I put in Soul Siphon, so it was the only way I was managing my mana. But it's like you have to like really stretch to make those builds good. So,
do you think?
Go
Or
ahead.
I had one question for Nugi. Do you think that Eldritch Battery and Regen is like the only way to make a caster viable? From early to mid game, and I'm talking about the leagues. Obviously, you can do a lot of other stuff with CI and stuff, but it gets to be much more talent. It requires more talents to support it. And what do you think about Eldritch Battery and how it fits in with casters?
Eldritch
versus,
Battery
like,
and
Blood Magic?
casters versus blood magic. Like I've been experimenting with blood magic a little bit as well, and that is actually really good. But like Eldritch Battery and casters, I feel right now, they're like the mana consumption, the amount of mana per cast is too high, because it really limits a lot of people in terms of what they can actually do. If you want to put GMP on something and then chain, it makes it almost unbearable to cast anything. And you cast it once and you're like, okay, this won't work, because you end up with like no mana after one cast. So it's definitely kind of mandatory for a majority of builds. It does seem mandatory. I couldn't have done the latest like 3 Dragon caster without it. It would be literally impossible, because it's at 140 per cast, 2 casts a second, and that you cannot support that in any way.
Was it your GMP Fireball chain?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's ridiculous.
And that's like the coolest thing to do, like adding all these things together where it just flies over the map.
Yep. And something you mentioned to me earlier was Arctic Armor level 1. Tell the people about Arctic Armor level 1. I want to hear this.
Okay, Arctic Armor level 1. If there's anything you should add to your build, if you have any like spare mana, you could just put in there, and you're not really using it anyways. Arctic Armor level 1 with quality gives you, I think, 20 or 28 or something, gives you 8% movement speed.
7, I think.
And then it gives you Chill Ground. Is it 8 or 7? Oh yeah, I think it's 7. Yeah. Okay, and then Chill Ground. I think Chill Ground is probably one of the most underrated things as well, because in order to get a chill effect on anything, you have to like hit a threshold from. Isn't that true?
Yes.
Yeah, you need to hit a threshold. So even if you're just doing a minuscule amount of cold damage, it's gonna do nothing in terms of chilling. But if you're running around with Arctic Armor and you let's say you just have it on in melee and you stand still on the monster, it's actually gonna be slowed just by standing there with the lowest
It's like
level.
that Exile.
And
That
it's-
is it. Tal Taragosa. Yeah,
God,
he's
that guy.
really
Imagine how
annoying to
immense
fight.
that is to you.
It's really good on bosses
It's-
as well.
Really good.
And that's like a free temp change without having the curse. So it's like, I don't know, it's just really strong.
The
Yeah,
biggest thing
that's
though
not
is
even,
it
it's
is
not even getting
a lot-
affected by the curse reduction on bosses.
I don't know, a lot of the builds, even though it's level 1 Arctic Armor, it's really hard to support the mana if you're not building your character for a mana regen character, especially if you're just like running around a map normally.
Yeah, well, of course, and that's only if your build if your build, for instance, like his GMP Fireball build with Chain, there's no way in heck he's going to support a high level Arctic Armor in that build, but a level 1 Arctic Armor would do quite well. So, Nugi, if you don't mind, now that we're discussing gems, you mind if I take off my segment?
No, you can go ahead.
All right, man. So the way how my segment works is I'm just like ADD with Path of Exile. I need to always find something cool or different, and instead of keeping it simple, I always like, hey, I wonder if this would work, and my mind just races on and just tries to pair a bunch of different things together to make it work. Like I did a high owns build recently. That's the new lightning sword, and I was like, oh well, frenzy charges gives you more damage. Instead of doing cast on damage taken discharge, I'm just going to use flicker strike. And of course, I got obliterated, but my damage was awesome. But more specific, I want to talk about different ways to make, you look at a gem, you think only one track mine or maybe two track mine. I want to discuss different options that are available to gems, despite, if you're a poor man, there might be a way you can actually still do unique spec, and it's going to be just focusing on gems that have been out forever. So one of the more recent ones I've been seeing of late, it's definitely not flavor of the month, but I have seen it and I've thought about it myself in the past, is Elemental Ground Slam. Obviously it has a damage effectiveness of 80%, but the problem with maces is there's no fast maces, right? Well, let's talk about Brightbeak. Like Nugi just said, aura nodes are so damn strong and all you really need is attack speed. This weapon also comes with an implicit crit. So Brightbeak has 1.95 attack speed, also gives resist. You can run an aura build with Ground Slam and Brightbeak, and I think it would actually be pretty damn fun. And there's your weapon. What else? It's so cheap you can Val Orbit to get what the heck you want on that thing. Am I crazy, guys? Just let me know. Am I crazy?
I guess my question would be, if you're doing that, why Ground Slam over Spectral Throw?
Because I'm a freaking unique snowflake.
just because you want to use the Ground Slam, Jim.
Ground Slam
It's
looks
like the
cool.
same.
It looks cool.
You can pick up with some AoE nodes. You can really have fun with that. And that's the thing. For me, it's fun. That's what keeps me playing this game. The fact that you have this tree and the amount of builds are endless. Let's find those builds.
Can you go crit with that? Is it possible, or is it just what's the base on that?
I
mace?
think it's 6.5 or 6.8 with the
So
crit.
you can go crit with that. Yeah.
Yep.
And you can actually add in. You could actually make it so that it could beat the threshold of pretty much anything, and make use of that
The 1.95, man.
stun
Come on.
reduction,
Where's the love?
like the stun reduction. Doesn't it? It has stun reduction right on Ground Slam.
Yep.
Yeah. You
All
could
right,
make
You
use of
keep
that.
the mana cost low by not leveling it, since it's like scaling off of Fizz.
Exactly. And it's already a pretty cheap build, but now that if your mana cost is low, you can easily support Arctic Armor. You don't need EB if you don't want to get it. You could get whatever the heck you want because Ground Slam is already a fairly cheap build. But I think that it would be really fun. It's something I thought about doing in the past. Hey, here's my weapon. It costs 1 chaos. I'm done. The next one I got for you guys. All right, so Explosive Arrow, Elemental Arrow. Whoa. Explosive Arrow. It's most well known for a +1/+2 bow or a Quill Rain, the burn spec, really. No one ever. It does exist, but crit Explosive Arrow. I would like to try that build. Obviously, Reflect would be a big deal, but another cheap option to make Explosive Arrow good if you can't afford that +1/+2 bow would be Death's Harp. Because Explosive Arrow doesn't scale off the weapon's damage, and Death's Harp has that one additional arrow, you can Val Orb, again another really cheap item, you can Val Orb another additional arrow on it, there's an LMP for free, and it has a 100% crit multiplier. Will it work?
3 arrows
How
at
fast
once.
is the bow?
It's 1.2.
Oh, I guess Finland. 1.21.
You would
I
have
feel
to
like
run faster
anything-
attacks.
I think anything below 1.6 with Explosive Arrow, because I think it'll feel too clunky if you're not getting off the detonation, the amount of charges required before you detonate, because it scales off of how many charges you have.
Well,
And if
the
you're
AoE
shooting
does,
them
at
slow.
least. I
The
mean,
AoE, the AoE, which is what you pretty much go for on Explosive Arrow, is that huge that potent AoE and that burn, but I don't know. I feel like 1.2. If it was faster, then I would say, yeah, go ham with that.
Maybe you could
what
have
do you
like
guys
the additional arrow. 3 arrows a shot would be pretty good without putting
Plus an
LMP
arrow on
it,
your
or,
bow.
like, Yeah.
Plus an arrow on your quiver.
quiver. 4 arrows a shot would be pretty crazy.
Yep, you can also get it on a quiver too, and it doesn't matter what's on the quiver. And actually, it would if you could get like cold damage or lightning damage with EE. On your quiver, and then just get +1 arrow. You're good to go. That's 4 arrows.
Some
Obviously, you
crazy
have to
I
attacks.
don't remember who it was, but someone did a crit CI Explosive Arrow build back in the first league, and I think
Willie.
they had like
Willie did.
no before Willie.
Oh, okay.
I don't think Willie was crit, but and they end up one-shotting themselves to reflect with like 9k and ball packed.
It's
Oh
gonna
my
happen.
Literally one explosion killed them.
You were going to
Wow.
need so much, and that's why you can run Arctic Armor if you go EB. You can go Arctic
Yeah, but
Armor
Arctic
with
Armor is for the smaller
Arctic
hits. It's
Armor's
not
going
going
to
to
do very
mitigate.
little.
It's not gonna
Minus 300 out of a 10k reflect.
Even with all the
Yeah.
with the +2 max res and the purity, like if you're running purity fire.
Oh yeah, this was before the
Oh,
as much
okay.
res as you can get now, I think. So you'd have to see now, but
So this one's a stretch. Cool. I'm glad you guys said it. You could have just been honest. All right. So the next one I got. This one's completely unique. All right. I hate playing Searing Bond because we know why. Now we discussed this earlier. I've seen it done on stream once, and I've mentioned this in the past. Dual lightning warp totems with Searing Bond. Your totems are warping around, and they're going to automatically warp and land with Searing Bond on top of the mob. Is this cool? Would you do it? Is it silly? Let me know.
are you running 3
Yes,
totems
you would be
or 2?
running 3 totems. So you would need curse removal flasks, obviously, if your totems were to die. And then you can
Pretty
run
clever.
static blows for your shock and AoE nodes.
Yeah, personally,
my
like I
question-
saw. Oh, go ahead.
So my question is, why even put in Searing Bond?
Why not? It's just extra damage on top of it.
But you can have another lightning worm totem.
Just 3 lightning warp totems, screw it. YOLO.
Like that's like when I hear that, I just think, why are we doing like
Because I hate Searing
I don't
Bond,
know.
really. Excuse me, I take that back. I don't hate Searing Bond. This would make Searing Bond more interesting to me. There we go.
okay.
This is
Well,
me
yeah,
just
but-
being a unique snowflake, like I said.
So what's
you
the
have-
idea behind the lightning? Is it to get the shock?
Okay, you can shock and you can run EE as well. Because Lightning Warp Totem isn't going to be fast, it will come down, shock, and provide EE, and now your Searing Bond is just going to automatically melt it because it's set up already with the totem.
Would you be using it with Flame Surge or what?
No, just go ham. I mean, you could throw in Flame Surge, but you're running 3 totems. You can't use spells. You could use a trap
right.
if you wanted to, really. But I don't know. This is just it's just fun. I would like to see it. All right, and then the last one to discuss is Flame Surge. It's been out now. A lot of people think, hey, it's melee, it's rough, and it is rough. I'm leveling 1 right now. I already feel like this works best with Righteous Fire. Obviously, you're already in melee as Righteous Fire. You get the more spell damage multiplier. Top of the more while they're burning. You're going to burn them from Righteous Fire. I think that is probably the best pairing with this new spell. Unless you go very defensive, which Righteous Fire already is or can be. I would like to see... there's 2 different ways. There's 3 dragons fire trap, and that way you're getting more multipliers on that because now you're shocking with your Flame Surge. You're going crit. I think that is actually a really strong build. I 2-shot Weaver with it, and it was just nuts. The second one would be running Fire Trap with like increased AoE or multi-trap, and then running Dual Totem Flame Surge. Obviously the range isn't the best, but you're putting your totems in the fray now, and you can run 2 totems just whacking away at the Fire Trap you're throwing. Do you think that this would make Flame Surge more viable, or more fun or playable for you guys? Helman, go
Yeah,
ahead.
definitely.
Or Terry, go ahead.
Just having more abilities to use in synergy with each other, I think it's a really cool new mechanic, and I hope we see more skills and spells coming out where players are rewarded for using something in sync with another ability, or if there's already a status effect or something that your character or an ability is doing. If you do something on top of that, you get rewarded, whether it's more damage or in another way. I think it's a lot of fun. It's really cool.
I mean, obviously, the obvious choices with Flame Surge, you got your Detonate Dead where you kind of struggle on bosses. You could just do plain Jane, Fire Trap, Flame Surge, but I don't know. I think that I want to see a dual totem Flame Surge build. I think we're going to see some videos on that.
I don't know. Personally, I see
Burning
the
Discharge,
best.
Flame Surge.
Personally, I see the best use of Flame Surge is just for, I guess, a resist blue pack or just rares and bosses, just to get that extra damage. Because most builds will clear AoE plenty fine, and Flame Surge's DPS, even with all the area nodes, is pretty small. So using it as your main skill to clear isn't that great, in my opinion. So I think it's mainly going to be used for that single target on bosses and uniques and stuff like that.
I actually messed around
Yeah,
with...
I feel the same way.
Go ahead. Yeah, the AoE, I actually messed around with increased AoE and then conk effect. I'm not sure if it's a graphical bug, but the range did not seem that much difference in terms of visually. It looked the same exact range. I don't know if it was. It probably wasn't the same exact range. But I was, I don't know, I was kind of blown away that I think it was just a graphical bug. And I think that unlike Glacial Cascade, where you get a lot of AoE, it gives a lot of distance. I think Flame Surge needs a little bit more love there. I agree with you there, Helman. Because, like you said earlier, screw it. Why not just go Freeze Pulse? And yeah, your damage might not be as strong range, so you're surviving a lot better.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of in a good direction because at least Leech is going to affect it. It hits so damn hard. Like it's like a set spike ability. There's like a prerequisite. But when you do hit with it, you hit really hard, and Leech will actually be effective with this spell. It's one of the few that, you can. It's like a better version for me, than Glacial Cascade. I mean, I've tried to scale that thing with GG Godly Gear, but it doesn't matter how potent that one line is. Like going around trying to AOE was just complete, slow and clunky, and I just really didn't like it. Yeah, and the fact that Glacial Cascade is split up into multiple successive hits nerfs the inherent leech that its potential leech, which is quite annoying. But I like to see that more potent spells that leech will actually be pretty good on. It's coming out.
So remember also, Hedgie, one of your famous staples. I'm quoting you: if a spell is going to force you to play in melee, it needs to hit hard, and you still don't like it. Killing me.
If it was a projectile, I would really like it.
So projectile is what your fix would be, because then you can make it faster projectiles and give it some more love, ballistic mastery.
Yeah, give it some more area coverage. Like Helman said, I'd rather use a weaker one that was able to cover a certain area and take down an AoE pack than have to shove a lawnmower in so many different lanes to kill an AoE pack.
The lawnmower.
Yeah, you're like going around
exactly
one-shotting these, but you're just like mowing the lawn and it takes 30 minutes.
All right, Grinding Gear Games, you just heard what your next microtransaction has to be for Flame Surge. It needs to be a lawnmower just running around. Oh man, so that's all I really got for my segment. I just wanted to. I think the one you guys really liked the most was probably the Ellie Ground Slam Brightbeak, well, except for maybe Helman. I don't know. I think that one is something I want to try to do in the future. Just one weapon, I'm done. Hey guys, look at this. I could spend all the Val Orbs I want on it to get what I need on it. But yeah, that's all I really have. Let's go into the next segment. So the next segment is called Overrated, Underrated. We did it last week with great success. You guys went nuts for it. So I'm really cool and happy, that you guys liked it. But Hedgie is going to explain in detail what overrated, underrated is.
Yeah, so the way we do overrated, underrated is we're going to go around the room, Terex, myself, Helman, Nugi, and Zeno in that order. We're all going to shout out, whether we think it's overrated, underrated, or just fine. And when we talk about this, it could be a concept that's first impression relative to the cost. It's the community's perception of the way this specific item, link, or idea exists in the game. So that's what it's relative to, not whether it's underpowered or overpowered. It may include something that it's overpowered, or maybe it's a sleeper item, or it's a sleeper thing that should need more recognition. So it can go a lot of different ways. It's not limited to items or keystones. We have a bunch of other cool ideas. So I'll go ahead and let Terry start off with the first one. But as he's going, I will be linking them in chat, the wiki link, and we'll give you a small introduction or an explanation of what the item is or what the idea is, and you guys can follow along with chat in case you are unclear what it actually is. So Terry, go ahead and kick it off.
So the first one I'm going to ask is monsters using Detonate Dead or like Detonation Totem, and like in the sense of where you're fighting monsters and then corpses start just blowing up around you. And I'm going to say that monsters using this ability is definitely underrated.
I too also think it's underrated. Helman?
Oh, I definitely think it's underrated as well. Someone had a video on Reddit a while back where they almost got one shot by it. So, and people just don't even realize how strong it is when it works on a unique or a rare.
Nugi and Zeno?
Nugi, underrated, overrated?
I just sorry, I completely just went somewhere else.
Corpse Explosion, Detonation Totem.
Mobs using Corpse Explosion, not Detonate Dead.
Mobs using Corpse. Oh, underrated.
Underrated. Okay, for me, I don't know. Spring's boss, double boss. It's underrated.
Soul Eater, here comes the detonation. Boom.
Yeah. I mean, I think
One
everyone
shot.
feels that way. You know, it's just one of those things you got to be careful of, and you get really complacent. You know, you see that mob just spamming detonate dead. You're like, oh, whatever, it's on a white guy, and you become complacent because it doesn't really hurt. And then, like you said, the Soul Eater, the Springs boss, or the box. Oh, the strong boxes.
Yeah, I feel like as far as like the Twitch scene and like the hardcore people, like they pretty much learned their lesson. Especially if you're into video culture with PoE, everyone's seen Kripparrian take the Great Fall from the double spring boss. But for a new player, that green totem, when you start seeing Corpse Explosion and when you're fighting a boss, whether it be like Exile or anything that has a lot of life, especially in a map where monsters have extra HP, you definitely need to be very, very cautious. Otherwise, it will end up in your death.
Oh man, that video! Never forget that video. All right, next one. What do you got, Hedgie?
Okay, so my next one was inspired by Uber Elite's thread. It's Val Grace. Here is the gem. It gives you it gives you a percentage amount of dodge, both spell and attack. Terry, what do you think?
I'm gonna say underrated.
I definitely think it's underrated.
I'm gonna go with overrated just because of the short duration of it. While
Whoa,
you're using
whoa! You say overrated or underrated? You discuss later.
Okay, overrated.
Zeno will
Okay.
pick on the guy.
I will pick
who he
on the
wants to hear
guy.
from.
Hellman,
I'm new. Leave me alone.
Nugi, Valgrace.
Underrated.
Me, I'm going. I'm not choosing. I'm going overpowered. There's my answer. Go ahead, Hellman.
All right, who do you want to hear from, Zeno?
Hellman, why is it overrated?
I just think it's overrated in the same way that Vol of Mortal Call. While it might be overpowered for the small. Oh.
Not you,
While it
Hellman.
might be overpowered for the small duration that you have it on, it is a couple of your skill gems. It takes you have to use it, and you have to use it. It doesn't last long enough to be that overpowered. I think in Uber's post or someone's post on the forums, you can make it last for like 8.5 seconds. That might be really good for right then, but then once it goes away, you're just like, now I'm back to my normal self.
All right. Overpowered, because even if it's only 9 seconds long, just shy of 9 seconds long, level 9 with 70% or effectiveness is cap dodge. Cap dodge. Both dodge and
Both.
spell dodge. Come on. You could be a
That's
dumpster, unwavering stance build and be like, hey guys, I'm immortal. Woo. Almost immortal. I think it just needs some nerfing or scaling or something. Maybe increase the duration but lower just keep it 40-40. Because right now it's almost the go-to Val gem in my opinion. What do you guys think?
All right.
Feel the same?
That's why it's overrated, because everyone's hyping on it.
All right. You do your ballerina dance. I'll use Val Grace.
Situational.
All right, Terry, you got the next item for us or idea?
Yeah, next one is going to be YOLO Exalting, and I'm going to say that it is overrated just from my experience.
I think it's underrated.
Underrated.
Same thing?
Underrated.
Underrated. Terry, why the hell is it overrated? Please tell me.
I have just never got a good Exalt, I guess. Just from all my experiences, exalting items, like 6 mana gained on kill, or just stats not useful, not in the least. It just either made the item itself value go down from no spot being open for me, or just a stat that I have no use for.
I feel like it's kind of underrated if you're going for a suffix. Like when you're locked in prefixes and you're guaranteed a suffix, I think it's a very, very good thing to do. Suffixes are like your attack speeds, your resist, your stats. There's so many like really good vital suffixes. But if you're trying to fish for a life roll, then it is overrated.
Yeah.
Like it completely flip-flops whether it's prefix or suffix. But if you have the existing life roll, YOLO Exalting in hopes of getting that leech or that flat fizz or even high elemental is still very good. It's very situational. I definitely think if you know what you're doing, you can really take advantage of it.
I've landed more tier 1 rolls YOLO exalting than eternaling. I don't know. I'm just lucky. It's just the
So,
truth.
That's that
shield.
man mode.
It's that white boy man mode.
I think it's definitely underrated when you're using it to if you already have your gear set up and you have everything you need, you're not looking to purchase an item at the moment, and one of your items is 5 stats, and it's not like a perfect item. YOLO exalted. There's no downside. Your character's already set. It's definitely underrated. People, if you have the currency, why not make your gear better?
Because then you get the Thorn God come and blesses your item with 1 thorn damage.
Or if you're a Mano, you get max attack speed just because you feel like it.
YOLO.
You're like YOLO.
All right, so what's next, Hedgie?
Okay, so mine is Alking 75 plus maps. I think that is overrated.
Terry?
I'm gonna say just fine.
Helman?
I'm gonna say overrated. Besides 78s.
And then Nugi.
Overrated.
Overrated. Why the heck is it just fine, Terry?
Well, if you're magic finding and you want to like find more items, alking and chiseling maps is a good way to get quantity, and that's extra, well, more drops in general. So I guess it kind of depends what you want from the map in the first place. If you want just max XP to level the fastest, if you're playing on like ambush, you can just make blue maps, magic pack, monster pack, rare monster. Rare monsters have like a nemesis mod. You can get the mods that you want for a lot cheaper without chaosing the maps. But if you're magic finding or solo, you have high rarity and quantity. That extra map quantity really does go a long way. So I guess that's why I think it's just fine, but it's situational.
All right, fair enough. All right, what do you got next, Terry?
Next up, I'm gonna ask about blind support gem, and I'm gonna say that it is underrated.
I think it's just fine.
I'm gonna say underrated just because. All right, underrated.
He learned. Nugi blind.
Just fine.
Just fine. All right, who said underrated? Helman and Terry? Let's get Helman some love. Why is it underrated, Helman?
I think it's underrated on things like having a flame totem blind or like summon Skelly's blind, having stuff like that, just for the fact that no one uses it. It used to be really popular and it's just fallen out. No one uses it anymore, and that's why it's underrated. I don't think it's overpowered or anything. It's just a good thing to have.
I think it's just fine because we had Smoke Mine. I think it is Smoke Mine. Yeah, that came out. That's a free blind. Then we had the good old crazy nemesis of what the heck's the name of the helmet with blind on it?
Bringer of Rain.
Bringer of Rain. That one made it really big, and then of course you always have Enfeeble. So blind, it's definitely good, like you said, when the flame totem set up. I think there's a lot more viable options though, that where blind isn't always used.
It's super good with Tempest Shield. If you're running Tempest Shield and you're not running blind, I think you're doing it wrong.
I actually had no idea that worked.
Yep, blind and curse on hit with Tempest Shield are very good. Curse on hit. And
is there no mana multiplier for this?
Nope. There's no mana multiplier for blind. It's free. Just costs you a green skill slot and a link.
Yep.
I think if you're a melee, putting on a flame totem, just that, it's like one of the strongest things. If you're like standing there, it blinds it for you. Yeah,
at the beginning of Invasion, I did I was Searing Bond self-cast summon Skelly's blind. So I'd summon as many Skellies while my Searing Totems were doing work in hopes of just blinding them and tanking a lot of scary invaders. Anything that I could do to get extra defense.
Yep. Who's up next? I don't remember. I think it's Hedgie.
It's me.
Hedgie.
Yeah. Okay, so my next one is a new item. This is going to be more so about like first impression because it's very, very, very new. Came out a few days ago. It's Jaws of Agony Supreme Spike Shield. This shield is a trapper shield. It doesn't have a lot of ES or EV, but it does have Bear Trap implicitly on it. It does have like an Arctic armor or pseudo Arctic armor because it's got that minus 14 to 18 physical damage reduction. Gives you life, and the most important thing is that it gives you 15% chance to gain a power charge on throwing a trap. I think that this is just fine. What do you think?
I'm gonna say underrated.
Underrated.
Nugi?
Overrated.
Oh, I'm with Nugi. Over freaking rated. All right. So everyone's got We got just fine, 2 underrated, 2 overrated.
Split.
Let's give Nugi some love. Why do you feel it's overrated already?
I think if you're going to evaluate for the power charge, I think it's too inconsistent to ever matter. Like 15% and then it falls off every once in a while. Because there's also like a delay on traps. So if you're like throwing traps, you have to like throw them constantly. 15% crit chance is just too low.
For me,
If you were,
go ahead, Hedgie.
if you were to
Perfect.
rely on the shield alone, I think you would have a lot of problems with it falling off. Someone calculated it take you about 47 traps to get full power charges, but the person that designed this actually used a cast and damage taken GMP ice spear setup, or used the
There's a flask. You can eat
flask.
too.
Yeah, the flask that he used to help roll. But I feel like this is in a good spot because I don't feel like it's overrated or underrated. It's an alternative means to, or a cheaper way to have some kind of guaranteed shield that'll work well with the trapper. And obviously the rare shield is going to be better with much more ES, much more crit and spell crit, but that is also a very expensive item. So this is a good midterm item. I don't think it'll be anything end game, but it's a good filler item, I think, as your quest to get to that best trapper damage.
Helmet and Terry are here. We'll go with Terry. Why do you feel it's underrated?
I just think like the unique aspect about it, the chance to gain power charge is really cool. But like you guys said, it's a bit inconsistent. But having another setup to help you maintain those power charges is probably what you want to do. But like for the shield design itself, I'm a big fan of it, I suppose. So I might be a little bit biased, but just the unique part about it, gaining a power charge on throw, I find very, very
See
interesting.
me, I look at that and then I look at the rest of it, and you're just like, it needs more. Like there's no defensiveness other than the minus physical damage taken, which I guess if you Val Orb, which why would you? More physical damage taken in Arctic Armor, it's kind of nice. But you use too much ES, you use too much for your EB. No spell crit, really, right? There's no spell crit on it other than the power charges.
Yeah, no
trap
crit,
damage
just
and
damage.
physical damage.
Yeah, physical damage is obviously specific to bear trap or EK traps.
Yeah, the bear trap is very, very potent with this shield.
Yep.
Yeah, like
Except
when
for
you
it's
hit
just a level
70,
20
as soon as you
bear
hit sanity, it's really good. But it's
Yeah.
gonna fall off like quickly.
Yeah, I think so too. And just from 70 to 80, I wouldn't buy that shield. I would rather save my money, invest for something else. All right, what do we got next, Terry?
Astramentus, and I'm gonna say that it is overrated.
I think it's very overrated.
I'm gonna go underrated.
Overrated.
Underrated and overrated. And for me, I think it's just fine. It's situational.
I guess I'm gonna change mine to just fine then.
Yeah. Good. Let's go with. I'm gonna go with Hedgie. Why do you feel it's?
I think it's very convenient. I find myself wondering why it costs so much. It costs 8 to 10 exalts, and there's no way I would pay that much. I mean, the amulet is the big damage jewelry piece where you can get crit and crit multi, especially if you're going crit, mainly when you're going crit, and also the flat fizz. Like, it is a huge damage source. Getting stats as far as convenience to for mobility on the tree, I don't see it being worth that much. Maybe 3 exalts, 2 exalts would be more. I just say it's extremely overrated because it's always super expensive.
So the price is why it's overrated.
Yeah,
for you.
the price is way overrated.
And then Nugi, you chose underrated, correct?
No, it's just overrated.
Overrated. No one said underrated then, other than Helman. He said situational as well, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, it's just pillar. That's the only thing I can really be like. Okay, in a pillar build early enough, this thing is awesome because you don't have a necklace that's going to give you the bee's knees like you're talking about, Hedgie. But you could still get a higher flat fizz on a necklace, obviously with strength and other things.
Then also like iron, like Moore's Iron Will Freezing Pulse, unless you roll like the perfect amulet, which takes a while to get. It's definitely a good filler. And then I know a lot of the Mjolnir builds use it as a filler until you get like the perfect items. It's like you said, it's very situational. It lets you use stuff until you get the right gear.
All right. What do we got next?
Yeah, but
go ahead.
That's the problem. Is like you're using that as a filler. So why would you want to invest such a huge amount of currency on that expensive neck?
Yeah,
I had no
true.
idea it was 10
like-
exalts. I thought it was like 2 to 3.
Yeah, I didn't know it was that
Yeah,
much
it's-
either. Mr. Moneymaker over here, dropping the
All right,
money
so-
prices.
My next one is a unique one that we haven't seen, but it's Chris shaving his head.
Oh.
Is it overrated or underrated? I think it's underrated.
Oh my god.
Underrated. He looks good. It suits him.
Underrated.
Underrated.
Freaking overrated. Did you see those upvotes? That was the most upvotes I've ever seen on Reddit. Overrated.
I know. It's more than like a patch or a unique item. They're just like, oh, Chris, anything you do, we'll watch.
We'll be lucky if we get 100 upvotes on our podcast. This guy shaves his head. I mean, one time. No, I'm just kidding. That was awesome.
It's
Terry's got to
confirmed.
shave his head for the next podcast.
Yeah, next podcast, Chris, you come on. You need to shave your head again.
All right, Terry, what do you have for us?
The Season 8 race rewards, and I'm going to say they're just fine.
I feel like they're underrated.
I'm not really sure.
Can we even
Fair.
say underrated,
I guess-
overrated on this? Can we just be like awesome?
Yeah, well, let's go with this one with awesome or
No, I'm gonna go.
you know,
Actually, I'm gonna
could
go
be better.
overrated.
Overrated.
I'm gonna go
Ooh.
overrated. Yeah.
Nugi.
Underrated.
Xeno.
Why is this underrated, overrated? It's you look at it and like no one's rating it yet. They haven't gone.
Well, I feel like it's like some of the best race rewards we've ever seen.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. And that's why they're freaking awesome. That's my answer.
I mean, I can explain my why I say they're overrated is just because there's so many of them are rings, and the whole one of the big part of race rewards is having the alternative art gear to show off, and you cannot show off alternative art rings. And a little bit on that, or a little bit extra on that, is 3 of the rings. You have to choose between having those 3 rings or having the taming. And
that's
there's
good.
another alternative
That's
art piece you
cool.
have to choose between. And it's just so many things that, I don't know, you don't have access to, which I wish you did.
You got some important decisions in the near future, Helman. You're like,
But-
do I do it
I don't.
or do I not?
The 3 dragons, the pillar, the wand, like, and what
Yeah,
else? The
shield,
Saphels.
Saphels.
Oh,
Oh,
please.
my gosh.
No more Saphels.
That Saphels looks
It's
so
Saphel.
sick.
The
Can't wait to get
Saphels.
myself a Saphel.
My name is William von Saphel, and I'm here with an alternate art.
So good,
Looks like we
though.
have time for one more. Let's go with the Crown of Eyes. This is the ooh la la item of PoE. Let's see. I say it's just fine.
Currently, just fine.
I wouldn't say it's overrated or underrated. It's just fine in that aspect, but I would say overpowered.
Just fine.
I agree 100% with what Helman said. That exact verbiage.
Yeah, for what it costs, I think it's worth noting that, you know, the spike in the cost of Crown of Eyes went from like 50 to 100 within like a couple Reddit posts and a couple YouTube videos and acknowledging Uber Siri. That was definitely, there were like some pioneers on that end. You know, we had Flubby, Findel, Kaisaren, all of them doing low life, taking her down with relative ease. I definitely think that surged the wave of, oh, now we understand what more and how much, you know, you can actually push this game. And that's why it's, what, over 100 exalts now?
Yep. When it first came out, everyone thought Wander. You know, that was the big hype of it. Wander, physical wanders, low life. And then everyone realized the true potential that it worked for also elemental attacks. And that's when I think it just went up like this in price.
Really good.
Yeah.
100 exalt.
Yep.
So when we're talking about Crown of Eyes, we're talking about like what it costs now, like how we feel, you know, the item's value and what it does to your build. I feel like, you know, 120 exalts, it's pretty on point.
Yep. It's worth every bit of it, sadly enough. The fact that it was the first, like, Crown of Eyes made Ubriziri as easy as it was for, I mean, watching Havoc do it first time, it looked too easy, you know? His single target spectral throw, you're like, what the heck is even going on?
The build is like foolproof for that fight, basically, with the 99 max res.
Yep.
As long as you have enough crit to keep your pots up, you face roll it.
Surgeons, that's a whole nother
Yep.
thing. OP.
Yeah, and then that fight just becomes instantly easier when you get the gauntlets. It's just like, you win the game!
Yep.
Can't die.
Those gauntlets, 900 armor and free mana and life leech instantly. Nuts.
Yeah, try doing that fight without the gauntlets, you'll definitely feel scared.
So, That's it for overrated, underrated. You guys don't got any more? You want to go into live Q&A?
We
Oh.
have some more, but we have 35 minutes left for Q&A.
Okay. So this is the part where we go over your live questions, and this is your chance to, especially the guests. I would like more questions towards the guests. You can ask us questions every podcast, but this is your chance to ask specific questions to whoever you want. We've been collecting questions, and you could keep sending them in throughout this whole entire podcast. We've been taking your questions and getting them on a Google Doc, and we're about ready to kick this off. So, Hedgie, go ahead and kick off the first one.
Zodcob asks, what do you guys think about the item or support gem that increases the speed that you get souls for Vile gems? And I mentioned this before when we had the podcast with Chris, if he would be keen on giving us a support gem that reduced the amount of souls. And I was like, do you guys purposely, avoid that? Has that been discussed? And I don't really remember his answer. Do you guys?
No, not really. I didn't even know there was an answer. I remember reading
answering
this.
that, about the souls in particular.
Yeah, do you remember me asking that to Chris?
Yeah, I remember the support gem just to help reduce the souls required. I think it would maybe enable more appeal to people making these setups, like a 4-link or a 3-link with a Val gem. They're really powerful.
I'm going to piggyback on what Nugi said. He mentioned flasks. Flask, I believe their suffix is on belts, right? I don't remember if they're prefix or suffix, but you already have these flask recovery and different flask nodes you can roll on a belt. I would like to see a soul regeneration type, what is it called, suffix or prefix, being able to be rolled on a belt, and only belt, because that way, if you want to make a specific Val gem build, this would actually help you out greatly, but it's hard to get.
I think it'd have to be on a unique belt because most people wouldn't care about it, in my opinion.
That's good.
They
I
definitely
think
built
if you
specific.
don't make it on... Oh, sorry. Go
No,
on.
Nugi, go ahead.
I think if you don't make it on a unique, you run the risk of making something that becomes mandatory on every build. Imagine wall haste for every single attack-based build, and if you get it low enough, it's gonna become mandatory.
Yeah,
Do
that's
that with a
good call.
support gem, and then everyone's running.
And if you put it on a unique, obviously then comes in pricing, or you have to, a downside.
Give up.
Yep. I like that.
We get the next one?
Sure. The next one's by No Mercy Reaper. It says, at Helman and at Nugi. Hey, would you say that Bringer of Rain, what's WO again? Wings of Entropy.
Wings of Entropy.
Rainbow Stride Duelist could be good a build in Invasion. I saw that build own Uber Triboss with the Anvil Amulet and Ambush from one go, but people tell me it's not a good build and for a hardcore league. What do you guys think? Wings of Entropy with Rainbow Stride and Bringer in Invasion.
I've definitely seen people do it. It's definitely a decent build. It's definitely good. Most things are, if you can make them work, if you have the other gear to support it, if you have enough life on your other pieces of gear. Since you're using Bringer Rain and Rainbow Strides, you already have a fixed amount of life on those. Probably going to be using, what's the spell block? Stone of Lazarus to give yourself some more spell block if you need it. So, and you don't have a shield. So it's if you can get enough life to make yourself tanky enough to do it without it. But I've definitely seen people use at least Bringer of Rain, Wings of Entropy, and it's definitely decent. I know I used it during the 2 week for a couple days, and it was a lot of fun.
I mean, with Wings of Entropy and Rainbow Stride, it's over 50%, is it not? Or close to?
I'm not sure what the base is on Wings of Entropy.
At 20, I think?
Yeah. Something like that.
I think it's 25 total, right? 10 from the dual wield and 15 from the weapon.
Yeah. What do you think, New? You think this would be viable in Invasion?
Is it viable? Sure. You can make a lot of things viable. Is it is it a very strong build? It's above average, I would say. You can make it work, and it's gonna be something you can use for most of the content, and it's gonna work for most of the content. It's not gonna be one-shotting everything, but it's gonna work.
Especially with the dual wield changes, I think it'd be really strong too.
Yep.
Yeah, that term
Yeah.
viable gets thrown around so much, and it can mean so many different things. It's the community always throws this word around, and I'm not sure that they're using it correctly or understand what it all entails. It's what does it even mean? Does it mean clearing maps is really really fast? Does it mean cost effective? Is it worth
Does it mean you don't die? You can,
Yeah.
for EK builds, yeah, you don't die, but you kind of 20-minute clear speeds, if not more. All right, next question is at Nugi. Are you happy with the current trading system? And if not, how would you like to improve it?
It's
Am I
1,
happy
2,
with the
3,
current trading
Moa.
system? Let me think. Well, obviously, I'm not happy with the current trading system because I dislike trading in general.
What are your frustrations with
But
it? Is it the offline people, or like what is it?
yeah,
The
I
way
think
people
it's
are?
I think it's the weight and the it's is it the offline people? Yeah, it's very hard sometimes to get in contact with people, I think. There's a lot of struggle, a lot of hassle, like to even just get to that stage. Um, like on the whole term, like I think it suits the game, but I'm just not a fan of trading in general. But I do think it needs to be made more accessible. Like trading needs to be made more accessible.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like a borderline stalker. When I find some GG
Yeah.
item and this guy has it
Perfect
posted
build
for
item.
5 chaos, and I'm like, oh my God. So I just find myself lurking at the computer, just waiting for this guy to log on, because I know as soon as he logs on, he's going to get 15 different tells from somebody. And if I blink, I'm going to miss it.
Whoa. Hedgie, you don't blink. Let's get that
Oh,
right.
yeah. Sorry.
Thank you.
If I go up to P, I'll miss it.
There you go. Much better. All right, so next question at Terex. Helman, at Helman, Nugi, and Terex. Helman, you talked about roles and that knowing your role is important in racing. What kind of roles are you talking about? Go ahead, Terex, kick this one off.
Is this for like party roles or item roles?
Item, I would believe.
No,
it-
No,
it's
party.
roles.
Party roles?
Like,
Okay,
Party
my
roles.
apologies.
roles. Okay,
Who's
so
the runner
Helman
and
might
stuff?
want to answer this, but I don't really have a lot of party experience, but like from what I've seen, you have like your people that farm your designated spots, and then you have your runner. But I'll let Helman answer this because he'll be able to, or Helman and Nugi can answer.
So team
Okay,
dynamic.
First.
There's two different aspects of it. One of them is knowing which person is going to run which area, and it's all about like normally like at different points there's different people that can run it effectively. It's about having the plan beforehand and knowing if certain people have like overpowered gear, they can do the area easier. So you switch off and just knowing who's capable of running the areas the fastest, because it's all about doing everything fastest. The other one is knowing what gems other classes get that you might need to use and having them give them to you because they don't need them or you can use them better. And those are the two
Communication
roles
is
you really need
key.
to. Yeah.
So it's team dynamic is everything and just having good communication with each other.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, okay, so I'm curious. How do you just dictate who runs? Like, is it the same person that runs? Like, just because you're the best at it, does that mean? Because don't you get kind of screwed out of XP and you start to fall behind your group? And if you're the one running and everyone else is farming, like, how do you guys divvy up that? Or you're like, oh, you're gonna find, submerge. You're gonna find ledge, and then I'll go find something else later so that it balances out. Like, what do you guys do to work that out?
Nugi, you can answer this
Well,
one.
you don't get screwed because you've already planned ahead who's going to run what. The thing is, everything is, like you pretty much, when you get experienced, you know how much XP you will gain in a certain amount of time, and you know how fast a certain player will run a specific zone. So by the time he's done, they'll know, like, they reach the they reach an amount of XP, and then you split those people up, and they start running, and then you have these like zones where you will stop and farm, and pretty much the only thing that is required that you are within the XP range of that zone, and that's pretty much what's important. So if you plan it out right, you never get in the position where someone is underleveled or overleveled or whatever.
A good example of this.
Mind if I take a shot at this, Helman? I'm a complete noob with racing, but from just listening to these podcasts, all right, like a 3-hour race, docks is your goal. In a party 3-hour, right? Docks is usually your goal. Just farm it forever.
They
For
go
the
to
sake of
cool.
argument, sure.
Okay, for the sake of the argument, thank you. So in Act 2, obviously you want to split up to get through it as quick as you can because you want to get to your goal, where by time you get to docks, everyone's getting the same amount of experience anyways. So if your group does it the fastest, they'll also get the most experience in the end game, or the end of the race. So therefore your people will be the top 6.
Yeah, as long as, like, for Doc specifically, as long as everyone in the group is 26, you're all getting enough experience to level, and doesn't matter if one person's 28 and everyone else is 26. By the time you get there, everyone's 26 and you get there the fastest, you're going to level faster than everyone else.
Exactly.
But a good example of what Nugi was saying is, like, we'll have either our Shadow or our Scion run to Brutus, and he leaves at, like, level 6, maybe level 7. He might get one whole level while he's running, while we are just farming ledge back and forth, back and forth. We get good ledges, we can hit 9. We kill Brutus, we're 2 levels ahead of the runner, but the runner's done. He doesn't have to run anything else for the rest of the race. So while other people are running stuff, he's catching up experience-wise, and that's the trade-off you have.
That's really interesting.
Why is it Shadow and Scion?
Shadow, because you have Fire Trap, especially if you have a +1 Fire Trap, you can one-shot while you run, recharge your Quicksilvers. Scion, because you have Spectral Throw, same type of thing. You one-shot with Spectral Throw, keep running.
These are the knowledge
the
bombs we
Quicksilver
need to
charges
hear.
This is a huge knowledge bomb.
That's awesome. All right, let's go on to the
Alright.
next one. Go ahead, Hedgie, you can read it.
At all, what's your conclusion about the last 2-week race? Let's go with Terry. Everyone participated in the 2-week race that's here.
Let's go around the
Just
table.
how powerful some of the boxes were. That was like my first time playing with some of the boxes, and they're so much fun. But some of the impact they can have like throughout your experience, like early, mid, and like late game or end game farming, they're crazy. Like the boxes have a really good impact. But for like overall from the 2-week, I don't know what to say about like that. I guess in general, it's pretty impressive to see some like the high levels like that. Blew me away seeing how high level people got in a 2-week.
Yeah, we saw the first 2-week in Ambush get to 100, and I thought that was very impressive. And then we saw Pulp get 98, which is understandable, and it's pretty accurate representation of how strong the reward is in that league. I did like the fact that a lot of the Ambush players got to get a taste of what we had, even if it was a nerfed version. But still, there was a lot of satisfying rips, a lot of tears, and I really liked the participation. I thought the class representation was very, very good. Obviously, the skill, the heat map or whatever was relatively similar. But I found the most interesting thing was that the most popular used Val skill gem was Val Summon Skellies. That blew my mind.
Go ahead, Helman.
Okay. The two biggest things about this race, which I think were the biggest impact versus like a normal. I know we were at 2-week before. We just had 1 week, but still, biggest impact is cartographer boxes. I know a lot of us invasion players never experienced those, and just being able to chain 77 plus maps starting day 2 for 2 weeks is just amazing. I guess. I mean, granted, I died a couple times and I never got up there, but I talked to the people and stuff. But I think the biggest thing that showed through this was how much of an impact the XP gear has. Because Garotha, I would say, was clearing maps. Their group was clearing maps a lot more efficiently and faster. But all the XP gear Pulp had on allowed him to keep up and even do better. Just like not keeping pace, but the XP gear allowed him to surpass them, I would say.
So, Nu, you had a lot of
Maybe.
experiences in 2-week.
Yeah, I think it really showed, like, as hardcore players, it really showed what we were missing out on. It really did. Like, if we'd had the boxes, it would have been a completely different invasion, I think, if we'd had that as well. It really showed how important it is to also not only have like people suffering, but also some fun. Other than that, I don't know. The race was a little bit long for my taste. I think at 2 weeks, if it's in that format, I think it does become a little long in the end if you're trying to race in
Yeah.
particular.
2 weeks straight. I mean, Pulp said he was still getting a decent amount of sleep, but There's no way in hell I'm going to 98. Hell, I don't even have a 98. It's just
I also
insane.
feel like it was like driving a Lamborghini for 2 weeks and then at the end giving the keys away and be like, no.
So my take on the 2 week race, let's see. Hedgie said that it's nice to see the ambush players go against the invaders. More like it's nice to see all those people talking smack about ambush, how if their boxes are easy and they get tons of loot, dying to them. Oh, it felt good. Felt good watching people rip to those more than invaders. I mean, yeah, you still had your EK boss deaths. I mean, your EK spider boss deaths, but a lot of people did die to boxes. A lot more than I anticipated. It was nice. Secondly, the 2 week race. We're all missing the big one here. We raised over $25,000 as a community to a damn
Yeah,
charity.
it's awesome.
That is amazing, and I think things like that need to happen more. We got a lot of cool prizes that got out there. There's like a lot of incentive to play PoE, and we were giving back at the same time. That's what this community needs, and I think that also added to the hype of the 2 week race. We need more of those in the future, so props to Grinding Gear Games for setting that up. I loved it.
It was
What's-
definitely a lot of fun.
All right, Terry, you want to kick off the next question?
The next one is from Mr. Doballen, and it says, how do you think the implementation of strong boxes after this league is going to affect the racing meta? And I'll just pick it up right away. And I personally hope that, like I said this about Corrupted and Shrines, I really hope we don't see them in normal races. But if they're going to be there, then you're going to like have to learn to like them. It's going to be weird. Like I can't say I'm going to use like orbs on them throughout the race, but might hit like a chest to get more monsters. I don't know though. It might improve some farming areas, like your farming capabilities, being able to spawn more monsters out of these chests. But you can also get yourself killed from them pretty easy.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to have the correct flask to handle a lot of those things, don't you think?
Yeah, it freezes you. That's gonna be nasty.
Not opening that one later.
Personally, from my aspect, I think I would only open white boxes when I know I can one-shot the pack around it and be safe about it. Other than that, I'm just gonna be not even spend the time identifying the box, just running straight through.
Really?
But we'll
Get
see.
out of there.
Could be wrong.
I noticed a lot of people in the 2 week race were like rolling for magic, 3 magic packs, because that is one of the mods on there. People didn't care about anything else other than that 3 magic packs. All the mobs are blue. That is huge.
Definitely a good chunk of XP.
Yep.
Yeah, but you're not going to
When
have
you're
that
already
kind of...
What's
You don't
up?
have the currency to do that.
Mhm.
Fair enough. I noticed it a lot. ETEP was doing it on his stream, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I saw him doing like re-rolling just for those.
Nugi had something to say?
When you already are in a map, like a map is like a limited resource, and so are boxes. So it's like getting more out of the one resource you have that's why it's so important.
Yeah, definitely felt like, huge pack size and even more chances at maps, even if you didn't get cartographers. Just the sheer number of extra mobs was definitely a bonus. The next question is from Shake2 at all. Have you guys noticed more better item drops since the new patch, or do you feel like it's about the same? I have not noticed anything, to be honest. They said with the change of unique drops on the rare, almost doubling it, 20% increase. And that also affects the chancing. I've been chancing a lot of stuff, and I personally haven't noticed anything different. Well, how do you guys think?
I've only done 2 hours of Dom farming, and I got trying to remember the Blood Magic Reserve Shield for auras.
Prism Guardian.
What's
Prism
that, sorry?
Guardian.
Prism
Guardian.
Yeah, Prism
the
Guard. And my first run I got Malagros, but aside from that, like that's the only 2 that I've really got. I haven't magic found a lot though.
I was spamming a lot of crit maps yesterday on Ambush, and I was finding about 1 unique besides the boss, plus the boss, so like 2 uniques per run, and all of them were bottom tier uniques, and that was out of like probably 15 maps, so 30 uniques all bottom tier, so definitely didn't feel a buff.
What do you got?
Like
Nugi?
if you actually write down and do and actually check out like the amount you find, you like compare them, you will see it. But it's with RNG what it is. It's pretty much impossible to see it because you have downs, you have ups and downs all the time anyway. So
Yeah. You're multiplying a relatively decent number by a really, really small number.
Yeah.
For me, I found a Romarius today, and yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, Mano spent 1,000 Scours and 1,000 Chance Orbs to try and get a Combs, and no success. So really, it's what Nugi said, it's RNG. I mean, obviously Romarius is not Combs hard, but still.
Like, of course, you're
Right,
gonna find a little bit more, and that's gonna be nice, but
You won't notice it.
yeah.
All right.
Shylens has the next question at Helman. Do you think the dual wield changes, people will start using dual strike on race, or at least a low level gem dual wielding to be viable?
The only race I would ever, I mean, with the buff to dual wielding and dual striking, the only races I could see it maybe being viable are Descent and maybe Descent Champions. Descent, it was always the meta, or it was equivalent to leap slamming back then. And I've never tried in Descent Champions because with how bad Cleave was. But there's no real good dual wield AoE skill gem to use in a race besides Cleave. And when Cleave is bad, you can't really use it effectively. So we'll have to see once the race season starts. I know I haven't done any testing with it yet, so maybe.
All right. Next question we got at Nugi by Mr. Doblin. What do you think needs to happen for melee meta to move away from the projectile meta?
So that's really hard to answer because it's like solving the melee problem right there. He's asking for like how do you move away from that? Because everything you do right now tends to be some kind of pseudo AoE or ranged attack. Even with Cleave back in the day, like you would just walk right outside of the melee range. Like the only places where you have to be so tanky. I don't have an answer on what needs to be done. You can do it in many ways. Like you can have the Arctic Armor helps you out. The 7 endurance charges, Immortal Call, all these help you out. So it can be done, but it's really hard because it's always more dangerous to be in melee.
And no matter how much mitigation you have, you're still taking damage.
See, what I feel like what they could do for physical, at least, or maybe even elemental if you make it attack based, but putting nodes after resolute technique that increases attack base and maybe AoE so that, ground slam, reeve, all those become more potent, thus, giving more leech. And, like the dangers that you take with melee, you're up close and personal with the mobs, and you're always having to have a way to get out and escape. So why not reward you with more damage at the same time? Let's not break already existing very efficient crit builds, that just clear like so fast. What do you guys think about that? Like something after resolute.
I'm going to
technique.
agree because like you look at CI, you have those 3-6%. You're like, all right, whatever. But then you get that the only more multiplier for ES. That is amazing. Low life can never have that. If they were to put something behind blood magic, like your first aura you put on is 100% free. Oh my god, I can go blood magic now. That makes it useful. Or something behind EB. You now have 10 mana gained on spell hit. Oh man, but you're forced to only use it with EB. I like those kind of things where you already have the downside by going blood magic, right? But you don't have any auras. So then a lot of people don't want to play it. So they need to add more after these big keystones. I love that idea.
Actually, when we're talking about blood magic, one thing I really want them to implement is something like leech rate. It can be for mana, it can be for life. But one of the big things that really destroyed melee is the fact that you cannot leech enough with the new changes and everything. So like with blood magic, you could make that melee specific by adding leech rate. Because now add something called meta leech rate if you don't want it to apply to like ranged.
Yeah,
There's
that's actually really good. Of course, that's coding, but they could do it because melee's big thing right now. Like life leech was their sustain. Now it's either life gain on hit or Val Pack, which I think you're hurting yourself more. Yeah. And then obviously, like Reeve was so viable, you could still run it on a critically Reeve build with Mana Leech, but Mana Leech is just no one talks about it anymore because you're like shunned if you use it almost.
Yeah, I mean, Nugi, you and I were talking about this earlier, but we both you and I and a lot of other people feel like Leech is a lost cause. So don't you think the meta has shifted into like, well, if I can't Leech, I'm going to mitigate and try not to take the damage in the first place. And, definitely a shift that we've, you know, favored, but at the same time we're suffering in the ability to get pretty crazy damage. So I think something after the resolute technique, just because crit builds don't need to already be stronger than they already are, and something to buff resolute technique and at the same time reward the melee or attacker or elemental attacker. All right, the next question from Hyperbear. Do you feel that spells such as Detonate Dead should be nerfed due to their comparative strength, or should other skills be buffed to be more in line? Helman, you want to kick that one off, or whoever?
Let Terry go.
I was just gonna say that I think nerfing in general is like bad. Maybe bad isn't the best word for it, but nerfing in general, like you're gonna step on a lot of people's toes depending on the build or the skill. But I just think more builds need to be brought up to par. But if one particular setup or skill is like outshining everything by like 300%, 400%, then like the stats are there, or the performance is there, and you gotta like do proper adjusting to it.
What do you think, Helman? You were about to kick it off.
I was just going off the same thing. I completely agree. The nerfing is almost never the right way to go about it, except for like in this instance where like Searing Bond was just way overpowered early level, stuff like that. I don't think Detonate Dead is there. I agree that other stuff should be brought up to the same level. It shouldn't be brought down just because people have found an effective way to use it.
In my opinion, the only thing that needs some adjusting, I won't even say the word nerf, is Pain Attunement Low Life right now. I think that one is like one of the craziest ones, and specifically with attack-based builds with aura modifiers. There's just so much scaling, but that's all I have.
I guess I feel. Oh, go ahead.
I think the main issue with Detonate Dead is not so much Detonate Dead. It's like the proliferated ignite. Like we see it every time. Like we had it with Discharge, Fire Trap. We still have it with like all these kind of things. Like whenever you see Crypt do anything, it's always proliferate ignite, and it just has a too easy way of spreading damage to everything on the screen. And the numbers are like super high, but you don't kill yourself because it's the ignite afterwards.
Yep.
I feel like it's okay to have strong gems and weak gems. I would definitely like to see more balance early on, so the leveling options are, more fun. Getting to level 60, I don't think you can hurt the end game too much, but I definitely feel like it's okay to have some gems be lackluster and some, like if everything was the same or the same potency, I feel like the game would be relatively interesting. I think that if you're going to have something strong, it needs to be really weak in another area. And Detonate Dead is one of those where it's like, well, you have the reflect to worry about, but you can circumvent a lot of the reflect with, not cursing something or running a certain map mod, and then you're, strong all the time. So they need to be more concerned about, I guess, drawbacks when they, do balance on power. Like something that does a lot of damage should be somewhat sketchy. So on the survival side, to have a fully tanky, unkillable and a DPS machine, that's where I think it's drawing the line.
I think a lot of people with these OP builds, they forget how strong Val gems really are, and how they can enable your build, and eventually you can stop using them. Like for me in the 2-week race, it was Val Fireball Trap. That thing wrecked every invader. As soon as I saw invader, boom, dead, gone. And you can use that thing to carry you so hard until you get the gear you need. Because spells, they scale just off of level. I mean, that was it. And then Trap has a more modifier. Put in a GMP, added lightning, instant shock, or 3 dragons. Either way. But that's my opinion on, like, anytime a build's not up to snuff and you need a certain amount of gear, use a Val gem. They're really underrated. Why wasn't that an overrated, underrated? Val gems. They're underrated.
Definitely.
All right, our next question. This is from Hyperbear. Oh, never mind. This one's from Talisman. At Nugi, what do you think about the limited amount of Uber Atziri viable builds at the moment?
I think that's just how it's gonna be. Like with any end game, like super end game, you will end up having very, very specific builds catered to that specific fight. I don't think that these builds should be like the end all build for all content. I think that's the important thing here. And I'm hoping that, like, because we are talking about Uber series, but I'm also hoping that they will add more Uber bosses that cannot be beat with the same spec.
Oh,
So
that'd
you
be
have
so good.
different, like that's what I'm hoping for. So I'm not too worried about like limited builds as long as there will be other fights later on that can be beat by other limited builds.
Yeah, I really like what you said about that. Being really strong at Uber Siri and then being like completely worthless against the next upcoming encounter. That would be really sweet.
Yes.
And then you see people, oh, that's the new OP build. You know, it's just like
Nugi's only saying that because he plays a ranger, and rangers, let's be honest, bowers don't get too much love on Uber theory. Confirmed.
his time will come. His
Next-
time will come.
Next Uber boss is going to be a ranger, and archer type base will be the OP. What do we got next?
I'd, li-
Oh,
I'd
go
like
ahead.
to see some throwback lightning arrow Nugi action.
No more lightning arrow. Let it die. Put it in the EK pile. Let it die.
More chain.
It's been dead for so long.
Keep it
Come
that
on,
way.
man. Okay, next Siri. Who wants to kick that one off?
Well, for normal at Zeri, two-hand is definitely viable, but for Uber, like, you're gonna need some super max res to survive that without spell block. But spell block, there's only a few items that actually grant spell block, and I think there's only one passive that gives it. So if you're dedicating those item spots to gain those stats, like, you're gonna be losing most likely other like valuable stats or potential valuable stats. So I think it's in an okay balance. Like the actual stat, maybe once you achieve a certain amount, might be like a bit strong, but you do have to sacrifice items in set spots to gain that stat specifically.
I feel like spell block is okay because it has a cap, 75. But I feel like the problem is more so the max res, the all res, and pushing elemental damage off the table. I think that is more of the problem than spell block is. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
No.
And
Nice.
flask nodes.
With what Terry said.
Yep. Let's
All
go.
right,
I think
next
flash notes
question
are okay. Yeah, go
is
ahead. Next
from
question.
Rip in Peace, and it says, at all, do you think auras and aura nodes are overpowered in the current iteration of the game? And I wouldn't say overpowered, but I would say people are just making use of it, or more people are making use of them. Like, I even personally have not used them until recently.
All right. I'm just going to put this out there. This is our last question. I'll answer this one too. There's only two instances where I really think aura nodes are extremely overpowered, and that is, again, low life, Painted Tomb, and Crown of Eyes. And then with the introduction of Valkyrace, if you have aura nodes, that thing is just instant. With paired with increased duration, that's a 9-second. If you pair that with increased duration, aura nodes, and then if you're running endurance charges, you got your Immortal Call, and then you could go right into Valkyrace if you really need to. It's just like, again, it's layers of immunity. What do you guys think, Helman, Nugi?
I think it's really, really strong. What it used to be is just one aura bot in the group carrying the auras for everyone else, increasing their DPS. Now it's just one person be able to have builds that make their specific character really, really, really strong. Especially with Chevron's, like, even not going Crown of Eyes, whatever, just going low life Spectral Throw, or low life summoners are still really strong. Just be able to run all the auras for either your whatever your creatures are. I think it's really overpowered right now, and for both offensive and defensive purposes. There's two. You can run like 8 auras on your life and mana pretty easily just with the aura nodes.
Prism
Yeah, I think
Guardian or
that's-
low life. I mean, no problem.
And I think that's too strong.
Yeah. Like on the amount of auras you can run, a single person, I think that's too much as well. I was hoping it would go away from that, with adding percentages to everything, but the amount of reduction you can get right now, and with also low life and everything, you just get to run too many. And if you're ever in a group, you buff the group. Like, the amount of
insane.
extra damage the group gets is just too much. more than doubled my damage on my like melee carry tail, which is just insane. Having one guy there.
It's almost like you're in a WoW raid. Who's got this aura? I need this aura. All right, so this is the official end to State of Exile podcast episode 7. We're going to change the title right now. Sorry, GCP was pretty smart, but we're going to go with Hatman and Stacheman. Sorry. So thank you again, Helman and Nugi, for coming by. I mean, Hatman and Stacheman. You guys were awesome. I mean, we had a little bit of hiccups early on, but hey, you guys killed it.